Have you ever wondered where the Anunnaki truly came from? Are they simply a creation of human imagination? Or do the ancient records reveal a far more mysterious origin? In this video, we journey deep into the ancient Mesopotamian texts to uncover the stories of the birth of the Anunnaki tales that are as old as civilization itself. Get ready, because what you're about to hear may challenge everything you thought you knew about the earliest gods in history. The term Anunnaki appears in the oldest written language known to humankind's Sumerian cuneiform. These were not vague myths passed down orally for generations before being written. These were direct records, etched in clay, by people who claimed to be documenting the world as it was. According to these records, the Anunnaki were not just gods, they were part of a divine hierarchy, beings who shaped human destiny, ruled over cities, and even had rivalries and politics of their own. But before they ruled the earth, they had to be born. And the story of their birth begins with the earliest creation myths of Mesopotamia. The Sumerians believed the universe was formed from the mingling of two primordial beings, An, the god of the heavens, and Ki, the goddess of the earth. In some versions, Ki is also associated with Ninhursag, the great mother goddess. From the union of heaven and earth came a lineage of powerful beings, and among these were the Anunnaki. Ancient tablets tell us that An and Ki produced a variety of divine children, each with specific roles and domains. The Anunnaki, as a collective, were said to be the offspring of Anutha. Supreme Sky Gadand often acted as his representatives on Earth. Their birth was not random, it served a cosmic order. They were the bridge between divine authority and the mortal world, a kind of governing council of the gods. But here's where it gets fascinating. The Mesopotamian records suggest that the Anunnaki did not all emerge at the same time. Instead, different gods and goddesses appeared in successive generations, much like a royal lineage. The earliest generations held power over cosmic elements, the skies, the seas. The fertile erstwhile later generations took on more specialized roles, gods of wisdom, war, storms, and even the underworld. One of the most intriguing accounts of their birth comes from the Babylonian creation epic known as the Enuma Elish. Although written later than the earliest Sumerian myths, it preserves much of the older tradition. In this epic, the gods were born from the mingling of the freshwater god Apsu and the saltwater goddess Tiamat. From their union came the younger gods, and among these divine descendants, the Anunnaki emerged as key figures. In this telling, their birth is linked not just to the physical creation of the world, but to the cosmic struggle between older and younger generations of deities, a struggle that would eventually shape the fate of gods and humans alike. The Anunnaki were not always benevolent. Ancient records portray them as powerful, sometimes fearsome, and deeply involved in enforcing divine justice. In some myths, their birth and presence on Earth are directly tied to the establishment of kingship and law. It's as if their very existence was meant to create order out of chaos. The Sumerian king Lista, remarkable ancient text that blends history and mythology, names the Anunnaki as those who decreed the fates and granted kingship to humans. This reinforces the idea that their birth was not merely a divine event. It was a foundational act in the shaping of human civilization. Without the Anunnaki, there would be no order, no kings, no divine law. However, some versions of these stories take a darker turn. In certain myths, the Anunnaki's birth is linked to acts of rebellion, disputes among the gods, and even wars in the heavens. For example, in the myth of Atrahasis, the Anunnaki are depicted as laboring gods who eventually pass their workload onto the Agigi, another group of deities. This connection between the Anunnaki and the Agigi raises questions. Were these divine beings truly rulers, or were they once servants themselves? And if so, what does that say about their origins? The ancient texts also suggest that the Anunnaki were not a small group. Some accounts claim there were 7 primary Anunnaki, while others list them as a much larger assembly of deities, sometimes numbering 50 or more. This variation hints that the concept of the Anunnaki evolved over time, shaped by different city-states, rulers, and scribes. Their birth was not just a single moment in mythic time, it was a continuing process. With new gods being added to the pantheon as the political and cultural landscape of Mesopotamia changed, one important thing to note is that these myths were not mere entertainment. To the ancient Mesopotamians, these stories carried the weight of truth. The birth of the Anunnaki explained not only the origins of the gods, but also the structure of society, the cycles of nature, and the destiny of humanity. For them to understand where the Anunnaki came from was to understand the meaning of life itself. Even today, these myths inspire curiosity and speculation. Some modern interpretations go beyond the historical and mythological to suggest that the birth of the Anunnaki might represent encounters with beings from beyond our world. Could the detailed genealogies and elaborate birth stories in these ancient texts be coded accounts of contact with advanced beings? Or were they purely symbolic, a way for early civilizations to make sense of the forces that shaped their world? Whether you take these myths as literal truths, symbolic storytelling, or something in between, one thing is certain. The birth of the Anunnaki marks one of the most fascinating chapters in the history of human belief. From the primordial waters of creation to the royal courts of the gods, their origin story is rich with meaning, mystery, and power. The clay tablets, weathered by thousands of years, still speak to us today. They whisper of gods born from heaven and earth, of councils that ruled over cities, and of divine decrees that shaped the course of kings and kingdoms. The Anunnaki's birth was not just the beginning of their story, it was the foundation of a cosmic order that the ancient Mesopotamians believed would last forever. And yet the story is far from over. Understanding where the Anunnaki came from is only the first step. To truly grasp their role in Mesopotamian mythology, we must look at their interactions with other divine beings, especially the Ajiji. Who were they? How did they differ from the Anunnaki? And why do some myths portray them as rivals while others describe them as allies? Join me in the next video, the Anunnaki and the Ajiji. What's the difference? Where we'll unravel another layer of this ancient mystery and see how these two divine groups shaped the myths, politics, and beliefs of the world's first great civilization.